My sister-in-law burned the handmade crib my in-laws gave me because she said the first baby boy was supposed to be hers. So I burned every bridge she had left in this family. I was 7 months pregnant when my husband's family threw me a baby shower at his parents' house. We were having a boy, and his parents were over the moon. Francisco was their only son, and this would be their first grandson. His mother, Saga, had spent weeks planning the shower. She made food, decorated the house, invited relatives, and called me every few days to ask if there was anything I needed. But the real surprise came at the end. After everyone had eaten and the gifts were mostly opened, Saga told me to close my eyes. I laughed because I thought it was going to be a stroller or a rocking chair. Then I heard wheels moving across the floor and people getting quiet. When I opened my eyes, Francisco's father, Abdiel, was standing beside a handmade wooden crib. It was beautiful. Not just expensive looking, beautiful in a way that made the whole room go still. Warm wood, smooth carved edges, tiny details carved into the headboard. Abdiel had ordered it from a retired furniture maker 2 towns over, a man who rarely took commissions anymore because his hands had gotten bad. It had taken 3 months to finish. Saga cried when they wheeled it in. I cried too. Even Francisco got quiet, and he was not usually a man who showed emotion in front of people. Abdiel just stood there with his hand on the side of the crib, looking proud and shy at the same time. The only person who did not smile was Francisco's sister, Delphine. Delphine was the older sibling. She had been married to Fernando for 4 years, and had been trying for a baby without luck. I felt for her. I really did. But at the shower, she sat in the corner with her arms crossed while everyone fussed over the crib. When Saga said, "This will be the first crib for our first grandson," Delphine stood up and walked out. I thought she just needed a minute. 2 days later, the crib was in our garage, still wrapped in a moving blanket, waiting for Francisco to set it up in the nursery. He was at work, and I was upstairs resting when I heard a car in the driveway. It was Delphine. She had a key to our house because she sometimes watered our plants when we traveled. I came downstairs slowly because of my belly, and by the time I reached the garage door, I could smell smoke. She had dragged the crib onto the back patio, poured something over it, and set it on fire. I stood there in my socks, 7 months pregnant, watching the crib Abdiel had spent months arranging turn black and curl into itself. Delphine was standing beside it with an empty can in her hand. I asked her what she was doing. She turned around, and her face was completely calm. "The first baby boy in this family was supposed to be mine," she said. "That crib was not yours to take." She looked at me like I was stupid. She said I had jumped the line. She said she was older, had been married longer, and should have been the one to give her parents their first grandson. Then she pointed at the burning crib and said, "Now no one gets it." I told her to get out of my house. She picked up the empty can, stepped around the ashes, and told me that when she finally had her son, the family would understand why she did it. Then she drove away while the crib was still smoking. I called Francisco, and he came home white as a sheet. Then he got a garbage bag, and we swept up the ashes and blackened pieces of wood in silence. The hardest part was telling his parents. Saga did not believe it at first. She kept saying there must have been an accident. When Francisco told her Delphine had poured fuel on it on purpose and lit it because she thought the first grandson should have been hers, Saga sat down and stopped talking. Abdiel asked to see what was left. Francisco brought him to our garage and showed him the bag. His father stared at it for almost a full minute. Then he turned around, walked back into the house, and called Delphine. I only heard his side of the call. He told her the man who made that crib was not taking new orders anymore. He told her there would never be another one like it. Then he told her she was not welcome in his home until she paid back every cent and apologized to me directly. Delphine did not pay. Delphine did not apologize. Instead, she called Saga and told her she had only done what was fair. She said the family had humiliated her by giving her future son's crib to my baby. She said everyone owed her an apology for making her watch another woman get pregnant first. Then she demanded that her parents commission a new handmade crib and save it for her future baby. That was Delphine. She destroyed something irreplaceable, then expected the family to reward her for feeling hurt. For 2 weeks after Abdiel cut her off, Delphine went quiet. I wanted to believe the silence meant she understood what she had done, but I knew better. Delphine never accepted a loss. She regrouped. During those 2 weeks, things almost felt normal. Saga called every few days and asked how I was feeling. She did not mention Delphine, not once. Abdiel sent us money for a new crib. When Francisco called to thank him, Abdiel only said, "It will not be the same, but my grandson will have a place to sleep." That was all. No speech, no drama. Just a grandfather making sure his grandson had what he needed. When the crib arrived, I let myself breathe again. It was not the same. It would never be the same. But it meant the family had drawn a line, and they were standing on our side of it. Then I took a picture and sent it to Saga with a message that said, "Thank you." She replied with a little heart. For one soft, foolish minute, I thought we were going to be okay. Then I called her because a text did not feel like enough. She answered on the 3rd ring, and right away I knew something was wrong. Her voice was thin and careful. I asked how she was. "I'm fine, sweetheart," she said. "Just tired." 2 days later, Francisco went to visit his parents after work. He said he would be back by dinner. He came home almost 2 hours late. He walked in, kept his jacket on, sat on the couch, and stared at the wall. I asked what happened. He rubbed his face with both hands. "Delphine has been calling Mom," he said, "every day for a week." My whole body went still. Saga had been answering Delphine's calls in secret, and Delphine had been crying. She told Saga she was sorry. She said she was hurting. She said everything had gotten out of hand. Every call was tears. Every call was pain. Every call was about Delphine. Then Saga told Francisco she was thinking about asking Abdiel to let Delphine come to Sunday dinner. I stood in the kitchen with one hand on my belly and the other gripping the counter. The peace I had built over those 2 weeks crumbled. Delphine had found the crack. I sat with it for a full day before I did anything. Then I called Saga myself, not to yell, not to accuse her. I called because there was one question Delphine was hoping nobody would ask. When Saga picked up, I kept my voice soft. "Francisco told me Delphine has been reaching out," I said. "I'm not angry. I just want to understand something." Saga said nothing. I asked, "What exactly did she apologize for?" The line went quiet. So quiet I thought she had hung up. Finally, Saga said, "She said she was sorry for the pain she caused." I closed my eyes. "Did she say what she did?" I asked. "Did she say she burned the crib?" Saga's breathing changed. "No," she whispered. "She said there was a misunderstanding about the gift." There it was. Delphine had not apologized for what she did. She had apologized for how people reacted to it. She had taken a planned act of destruction and turned it into a misunderstanding. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "Saga, she came into my house with a key key I trusted her with. She dragged out your grandson's crib. She poured fuel on it and lit it on fire while I stood there pregnant. Then she told me my baby did not deserve it. That is not a misunderstanding. Saga started crying. I hated that I was the one making her cry. I hated that telling the truth felt cruel. But if I let Delphine's softer version replace what really happened, then the crib would be gone twice. Once in the fire, and again in the family's memory. Saga cried for a while. I let her. When she finally spoke, her voice was raw. I know what she did was terrible, she said, but she is still my daughter. I cannot just erase her. My heart hurt for her, because she was not defending the fire. She was defending the part of herself that still loved her child. And I understood that more deeply than I wanted to, because I was about to be a mother too. So I said, I am not asking you to erase her. I am asking you not to let her erase what she did. Saga went quiet. I reminded her that Abdil had set clear conditions. Delphine needed to pay for the crib and apologize to me directly. She had done neither. Instead, she had gone around those conditions and found the one person she knew could not say no. I told Saga that if Abdil found out she was hiding these calls, the damage would not only be between Delphine and the family anymore, it would be between Saga and Abdil too. Delphine would have caused that, and she would not lose sleep over it. After a long silence, Saga said, okay, I will not invite her to Sunday dinner. Not yet, not yet. Those two words told me everything. She was not closing the door. She was leaving it unlocked and hoping Delphine would not try the handle. After we hung up, I called my friend Alba. I told her everything. Alba listened, then said, you know what Delphine is going to do next, right? I did not answer. She's going to show up anyway, Alba said. She knows Saga might say no on the phone, but she will not shut the door in her daughter's face. My stomach tightened, because she was right. That night, I told Francisco we needed to call Abdil. He did not want to. I could see it in his face. But I said, your sister burned our son's crib. Your mother is about to let her walk back in without a real apology. If we stay quiet, Delphine will sit at that table next Sunday and act like nothing happened. Francisco stared at his phone for a long time. Then he called his father. He put it on speaker, and we told Abdil everything. The secret calls, Saga wavering, Delphine calling it a misunderstanding. Abdil listened without interrupting. When Francisco finished, there was a silence so long I thought the call had dropped. Then Abdil said, I will handle it, and he hung up. That scared me more than yelling would have. 3 days before Sunday dinner, Saga called me. When I answered, Saga sounded stiff and formal. Delphine called me again, she said. I closed my eyes. She said if this family chooses you over her, I will never meet any child she has. Saga continued. Her voice cracked. She said she will move away, and I will never see her again. Then she started sobbing. I lay there with my hand on my belly, and listened to this woman who had been nothing but kind to me fall apart because her daughter had found the cruelest weapon possible, future grandchildren. Delphine had dangled them like a reward, and then snatched them away like punishment. Saga begged me to let Delphine come to dinner. For one terrible second, I almost said yes. Then I thought about the smoke. I thought about standing in my socks while the crib burned. I thought about Delphine's calm face when she said my son did not deserve it. So I took a breath and said, I love you, but I will not sit at a table with someone who destroyed your grandson's crib, and then threatened you with future grandchildren to avoid accountability. That is not love. That is a hostage situation. Saga went quiet except for her breathing. Then she hung up, not angrily, more like she could not hold the phone anymore. When Francisco came home, I told him everything. He listened, exhausted and pale. When I finished, he rubbed his hands together and said, maybe we should let her come and hear her out, not forgive her, just hear her. I looked at him. I knew he was not saying it because Delphine deserved another chance. He was saying it because he was tired, but there was no clean ending with Delphine. I said, hear what? She has had weeks to apologize. She called your mother every day. Did she once ask to speak to me? Did she once ask how the baby was? Did she once say she wanted to make it right with us? Francisco opened his mouth, then he closed it. No, he said quietly. She didn't. Not once had she asked about the baby whose crib she burned. Not once had she asked to apologize to me. That night, Alba told me something I could not ignore. If you are not at that dinner, she said, Delphine will get there first and make herself the victim. By the time you hear about it, her version will already be the family story. She was right. So the next morning, I called Abdil myself. When he answered, I said, I want to come to Sunday dinner, and if Delphine shows up, I will not leave. I will sit there and tell the truth about what she did. There was a pause. Then Abdil made a sound that was almost a laugh. Good, he said, because I told her she was not invited, but you and I both know she is coming anyway. Sunday was not going to be dinner. It was going to be a reckoning. Francisco and I arrived early. Inside, the air felt heavy. The dining table was set for four. 4 plates, 4 glasses, 4 chairs. Abdil, Saga, Francisco, and me. No place for Delphine. I should have felt relieved. Then I saw the food. Saga had made the roast, the rice, the bread rolls, everything she usually made for Sunday dinner. But off to the side, half hidden behind the bread basket, was a small dish of sweet plantains, Delphine's favorite. Nobody else in the family liked them that way. Nobody else asked for them. The table was set for 4, but Saga had cooked for 5. I looked at the dish and said nothing. For the first half hour, everyone pretended things were normal. Abdil asked how I was feeling. I told him the baby was healthy and active. He nodded and said boys were trouble from the start. Saga sat beside me and put her hand on my belly. When Jonah kicked, she smiled. Strong boy, she said, but her eyes kept drifting to the front window. Every time a car passed, her shoulders tightened. Every time it kept going, she relaxed and tried to smile again. She was waiting for Delphine, and she was terrified that Delphine would come. Francisco caught my eye and nodded toward the kitchen. I followed him in. He stood by the sink, arms crossed, voice low. My mom asked me this morning if I could talk to you about giving Delphine one more chance. I stared at him. Did your mom say that? I asked. Or did Delphine put those words in her mouth? Francisco did not answer, because he did not know. I put my hand on Francisco's arm. I need you with me tonight, I said. Not in the middle. With me. He nodded. I am, he said. His hands were shaking when he put them in his pockets. We went back to the dining room. Dinner started. Nobody touched the plantains. We had barely eaten when Francisco's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and stepped into the hallway. When he came back, his face had changed. He leaned toward me and whispered, Augusto said Delphine called him this morning and asked him to come as backup. He told her no, but he said she sounded like she had already decided to show up. My pulse started beating hard and steady. Delphine was not just coming. She had tried to build an audience. We kept eating, or pretending to. The conversation was thin and careful. Then headlights swept across the front window. Not passing. pausing, stopping. A car door closed, then another. 2 people. Saga went white. Abdil set his fork down slowly. Footsteps crossed the porch. Then the doorbell rang. Saga started to stand. Abdil put one hand on her arm. "Sit down," he said. She looked at him, trembling, but she sat. Then Abdil turned to me. "Not Francisco. Me. This is your home too," he said. "You decide if that door opens." The room went silent. I looked at Saga, gripping the table with both hands. I looked at Francisco, who gave me a small nod. Then I pushed my chair back and stood. Francisco put a hand on my back to steady me. I walked to the door. I put my hand on the knob. For 5 seconds, I did not move. Then I thought about the crib, the smoke, the ashes, the way Delphine had looked at me while it burned. I opened the door. Delphine stood there in a dark fitted dress, hair done, makeup careful. In one hand, she held a pale yellow gift bag with white tissue paper. Fernando stood half a step behind her. Delphine smiled. "I brought something for the baby," she said. Her voice was sweet, polished, rehearsed. I did not smile back. "Come in," I said. "Sit down. We are all going to talk." She walked past me without hesitation and went straight to Saga. She opened her arms and Saga broke. She hugged Delphine and started crying. Her whole body shook. I stood in the hallway and watched a mother hold the daughter who kept using that love against her. Abdil did not move. Fernando came in quietly and stood near the wall until Delphine sat down. Then he sat at the far end of the table, as far from Abdil as he could get. Delphine placed the gift bag in the center of the table beside the bread basket and the cold plantains. Then she folded her hands and looked around. "Before anything else," she said, "I want to say I am sorry for the misunderstanding about the crib. I was in a bad place and I reacted out of pain. I know that hurt people." She said it perfectly. Then she waited. Nobody moved. I let the silence sit there. Then I asked, "What misunderstanding?" Delphine blinked. "Just once." "I just said," she replied. "The situation with the crib. I overreacted." "No," I said. "Say what you did." Her smile tightened. "I already apologized." "You apologized for a misunderstanding," I said. "There was no misunderstanding." The room shifted. I leaned forward as much as my belly allowed. "You came to my house with a key I gave you. You went into my garage. You dragged out a handmade crib your father spent months arranging and your mother cried over when she gave it to us. You poured fuel on it. You set it on fire. And when I came downstairs pregnant with your nephew, you told me my baby did not deserve it because you should have had the first boy." My voice did not shake. "That is not a misunderstanding. Say it." The room went so quiet I could hear the clock. Then Fernando turned slowly toward Delphine. His face had gone gray. "You told me it was an accident," he said. Delphine froze. Fernando stood, both hands flat on the table. "You told me a candle caught something in the garage," he said, louder now. "You said you panicked. You said everyone was blaming you for an accident." Delphine's mask dropped, not slowly, all at once. She turned on me. "You are doing this on purpose," she snapped. "You are trying to turn my husband against me. This is what you have done since you married into this family. You took my brother. You took my parents. Now you want my marriage too." There she was, the real Delphine. I did not answer. I did not need to. Abdil spoke for the first time. "Delphine," he said, voice low and steady. "Nobody took anything from you. You burned it all yourself, just like you burned that crib." Delphine flinched. For once she had no answer. Then Saga spoke. She was crying, but her voice was clear. "I have loved you every day of your life," she said. "I answered your calls when your father told me not to. I made your favorite food tonight because part of me still hoped you would come here and say the right thing." She looked at the cold plantains. "But you cannot even say what you did." Saga reached for the gift bag and pushed it back toward Delphine. The tissue paper rustled. "Take this home," Saga said. "You are not giving gifts to a baby whose crib you destroyed until you can stand in this room and say the words. Not to me, to her." Then she pointed at me. Delphine looked around the table. She searched for a crack. Abdil was stone. Saga was crying but upright. Francisco was standing beside me now, one hand on my shoulder. Fernando was already walking toward the door. Delphine picked up the gift bag and hugged it against her chest. Her chair scraped against the floor. She looked at me last. "You will all regret this," she said. Then she walked out. Fernando was already in the car. He did not look at her when she got in. A moment later, they were gone. The house fell quiet, not peaceful, empty. I walked to the door and closed it. The latch clicked softly. When I returned to the table, Abdil reached across and put his hand over mine. His hand was rough and warm, and it covered mine completely. "That crib cannot be replaced," he said. Then he looked me in the eyes. "But you are family, and that is not something she can burn." My throat tightened. For the first time since the fire, since the smoke and ashes and the garbage bag full of someone's love, I felt the weight start to lift. The crib was gone. The family lie was not. And my son would be born into a house where people finally knew the difference.